my approach for developing models is begin with the situation or topic you want to understand, ask what influences this, ask what does this influence, ask number 2 and 3 repeatedly for all elements until you run out of answers, explain your model to someone else, asking them for what's missing, and don't be an idiot and argue with their feedback, seek to understand. That's 45 years in 6 statements. About that time, now that all of this stuff has become clear, I developed this course called the Certified Systems Thinker Program. And people thought I was extremely presumptuous, and I probably was. I developed on Udemy, and the first few people that went through it gave me unbelievably glowing reviews to a point where I thought I was being had. And then a couple of people went through the course and they said, okay, the course is marvelous. How do we sell systems thinking to our organization? And at that time, I almost had a meltdown because I said, you missed it. You just can't do that. We've been trying to sell systems thinking for the last 90 years, and for the most part, the world isn't buying. So how do I give them an answer that makes sense? So after pondering it for a while, and I'm going to do this part down here later, I realized that a model, I said a model is a simplification reality intended to promote understanding. I realized a connection between a model and a play. If I go to the play and I sit there and I watch the relationships unfold between the actors from one act to another, at the end of the play, if it was done relatively well, when I leave, I take the story with me because, as Bateson said, it's the pattern that connects. It's the pattern that holds it all, that allows me to connect it all together and make sense out of it and take it with me. And I finally realized that, oh, the models that we develop are actually stories of patterns, and what systems thinkers have done forever is akin to having the playwright walk up to you, hand you the script, and you not having seen the play, and ask you 5 minutes later, what do you think? There's just no way that you can digest that piece of work in that period of time. And so I simply realized that for years, I had inflicted my models on other people. When I would send them models, if they sent back anything, a few days later, they would send back, oh, that's nice. And what they really wanted to say is, why the hell did you send this to me? Because I just made their head hurt. Finally concluded, what's the first rule of Fight Club? Don't talk about Fight Club. So I came to the conclusion that the first rule of systems thinking is don't talk about systems thinking. Because I'm trying to convince you that you should learn something that you don't know about at the moment, and I'm discounting you and putting you off. And so why should I do that? And then Buckminster Fuller said, you should not try to change people. You should give them tools to use which change the way they think. And in this instance, the systems thinker becomes the tool that enables people to think differently. You just have to go about it in a different way. So as Lao Tzu said, when the sage has finished his work, the people will say, we did it ourselves. So all of this adds up to an approach where I now tell people that I develop stories about relationships and their implications. I don't talk about systems thinking, and I don't try and teach anybody anything. And if I go to someone, I'm not there to help them because that's discounting them. I go there and I say, help me understand what it is that you're wrestling with. And as they begin to tell me, I ask if I can take some notes. And the notes that I take look a lot like a model. And after a few minutes, I begin to ask questions based upon the notes that I've been creating. And what's really amazing is within a very short period of time, the person is engaged in evolving the map or the model because they're looking at it and say, well, you know, you really should connect this part and this connects to this. I've come to conclude that for most people, modeling is an unnatural act. Trying to get people to develop a model because they don't think they know how to develop models, and they have been taught their entire life that they shouldn't make mistakes. So they don't want to try to do something they don't know how to do. And they won't listen to Nike, who said, just do it. Because the only way that you can get good at developing models is to work at developing models. So all of this all concluded down to, this is why I don't think you can sell systems thinking to your organization, and you shouldn't try. You should simply work with people to try and understand the problems that they're wrestling with and think about them slightly differently from a perspective of all of this stuff is connected and related.
To me, from the bringing of worlds together, you know, academic, at least the way in my little space here, you have the academic and the research, but, you know, I also have reliability and I have maintenance, and those worlds have to understand each other. And it's going to be through those principles because they're applicable. Everything he said there is applicable to anywhere because understanding relationships is the key. Not who made a bad decision or, you know, what went wrong, but, you know, understanding. And he said that, you know, when you make these things, he said, perhaps I don't think when he was talking about the bird feeder, you know, maybe it's me. Maybe I made a decision. I didn't think of the consequences. Well, that's relevant anywhere.
You just spoke a minute ago about, like, I think when you were looking at the bird feeder model, it was, you know, every time you look at it, something new appears and, you know, you get these new aha moments, just paraphrasing. If I put on my predictive data modeling hat, you know, one huge element of that is iteration, you know, always looking at the hypothesis, looking at what the model tells you, fine tuning. But the hard part is, when is done? When does it start yielding value? Is the same kind of thing true with what you've looked at and what you've discovered?
It's done when you no longer have a use for it.
Okay.
I mean, for the last month, I've been working on a qualitative relationship model associated with inflation. And I posted another version of it yesterday. And, you know, it could have 10,000 elements in it and still not be complete. Because if you talk about, you know, when COVID showed up, it influenced demand, but it influenced it in a myriad of different ways. I mean, you know, the services industry went down and durable goods went up, and some things, you know, and gas went down until we ate into the supply, and then it went back up, and it just, but the question was from somebody, who was the target audience for the investigation? And my answer was me. I wanted to understand more about the various and sundry relationships that were responsible for it. And I read 20 or 25 different articles and highlighted them here and there and put together this model and said, okay, I got enough of an understanding for now.